Hello guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, hello, I'm Emily. If you're not new here, welcome back. Today is a beautiful day to talk and gush about books. I've got my iced coffee here. We got a good stack of books to talk about. Let's get into it. So I'm sure you guys have heard of this tag, but it's the book recommendation tag. Steph Bohr posted a video about it a few weeks ago. I did a live on my TikTok account a few days ago, and I was just recommending a ton of books, and people were asking if I could put all of those books in one video on YouTube. And so I got the tag questions here on my phone. I picked out the books. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the first question is a book you tell people is your favorite. I talk about this book all the time to everybody I know, anyone who has ears, who breathes. I just cannot stop raving about this book, and it is Pack Up the Moon by Kristen Higgins. This was actually recommended to me by a close friend of mine, and yeah, this one hurt. I knew this one was really sad. It actually went viral like last summer for a while. People were picking this up not knowing anything about it, going into it and then bawling their eyes out. And I think a lot of people were scared by that. I was scared by that. But I decided to pick it up and I read it in one sitting. I could not stop. Look at all of these tabs. Like, this book, not to be dramatic, but to be dramatic, changed my life. So Joshua and Lauren, they've been together for a really long time. They get married, and a little bit into their marriage, they find out that Lauren is diagnosed with an illness. So she only has a few months to live. Ouch. If you've ever seen the movie P.S. I Love You, this literally reminds me exactly of it. So if you've seen that movie, be prepared because this is heart-wrenching. So what I love so much about it is the first chapter. It starts off with like 8 days left, and then it's like whatever. So each chapter goes to however many months she has left. It goes from past to present, and it's dual POV. So you get to the present where Joshua is dealing with the death of Lauren and he's learning how to live again. And then it goes to the past where you're learning more about their relationship, kind of what they were struggling with. Yeah, it's really sad. When it goes to Lauren's perspective, it's in a letter she's writing to Joshua that Joshua has no idea. So when it goes back to the present, Joshua is receiving these letters that Lauren wrote to him before she died of how to live, how to love without her, how to live his life, like just things like that. Little tasks for him to do to get back out there and just like enjoy life again, not be so depressed. It hurts. Like, it's just, yeah, Joshua is the most elite, loyal book boyfriend you'll ever meet. He loves her so much, and it's just so devastating to see a love like this end, and you just feel like there's no hope for him. Like, he's just so sad. He just like doesn't have like a will to live. Like, he's lost without her. So it's beautiful to see like the letters that she sends to him and like willing him to just like live his life and things like that. There is a happy ending, so don't think this is just straight depression. It's not. You get to go with him on the tasks that he does, and he meets people along the way that change his life, and it's really, really cute. Well, the ending is cute. It's really sad, the ending, actually. But it really just like makes you look at life different. Just like Lauren in this book is so young when she passes, so it just makes you like appreciate life more. And yeah, it's an amazing book. Kristen Higgins did that. I need to read more of her books. She's incredible. Her writing is impeccable. It's amazing. You're gonna love it. I hope you do. If you don't love it, don't tell me, because it'll hurt my feelings. Next one is a book that is your guilty pleasure. I feel like this is gonna be everybody's guilty pleasure, and that is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. I love a good ex-boyfriend's dad. Doesn't everybody? Yeah, I feel like everyone does. This was not the first book I read by P. Doug, but when I did read this book, I already knew I wanted to go back to page 1 and read it again. I've read a few ex-boyfriend's dad books and none of them hit as good as this one. So Jordan and Cole are kind of like on like the rocky end of their relationship. He's just been kind of shady. I don't know, he hates his father, but something ends up happening where Cole kind of screws over Jordan and they have to move in with Pike, which is Cole's dad. One night she comes in and she sees that Cole is cheating on her. And yeah, so Pike actually like is livid of the fact that he's done this. So at one point he ends up leaving. I can't remember why, it's been a while, but he ends up leaving and Jordan's like, well, this is awkward. I was supposed to live here with Cole. I have nowhere else to go. And Pike's like, don't worry about it. You can just stay here until you get back up on your feet. Y'all know what happens. Y'all know what time it is. Yeah, Pike is such like a respectable man. This is a man right here, and he knows it's wrong. He knows it's wrong to want her, but he can't help it. It is a slow burn. It's not one of those like immediately chapter 2 they're going at it. No, he knows it's wrong. She knows it's wrong, but they can't help it. God help me. It's so good. The spice is there. This is my favorite Penelope Douglas book ever. This is my favorite dad's or ex-boyfriend's dad ever. Like, the cover though needs some work, but I love it. It's raved for a reason. It's amazing. You're gonna love it. Chef's kiss. Next one is a book everyone loved but you didn't like. So due to unpopular belief, this book was like trending everywhere. People were going nuts over it. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. And it's Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I've read so many good hockey romances. Actually, that's a lie. I read one good hockey romance that I recommend to everybody and their mother. And that is like the Don't Let Me Go, Don't Let Me Fall series by Kelsey Ray. Holy guacamole. It's so good. So when I went into this one and I saw the cute cover and people were like, don't like judge the book by its cover. It's so spicy. It's so good. It's got the plot. Listen, I did not like Anastasia. I hated her. She was the worst girl, like female main character I've ever read. She's so mean. She's not nice to him at all. Like, it's just like, and Nate Hawkins deserves better. I'm sitting here saying like, oh, I didn't hate it. Now that I'm talking about it, let's talk about it. I'm pretty pissed. So when I went into this, I thought the whole plot of the book was that something happened to where she needs a partner and he kind of steps in and learns how to figure skate so he can be there for her and like help her win like the big competition, because this is a college romance and he's a hockey, like the team captain of the hockey team, and she's like a professional figure skate, well, not professional yet, but she's a figure skater in college. And something happens to her partner and he steps in to help her. That's not the plot of the book at all. Like, that's like this much. And I don't even think he just helps her practice. He doesn't even compete with her. That's what I was hoping for, and it wasn't. So I was just like a little disappointed in that. Pretty much something happens on the hockey team where they like attack a rival school and they come back and like trash their whole like ice rink. So they're forced to share an ice rink with the figure skaters, and it's not an enemies to lovers, but she hates him and he's just kind of like, you know, teasing her and like making, I don't know, just whatever. So it's really just one-sided, and I hate her partner. I think his name was Aaron. He was an asshole. I just did not like him. Yeah, the plot was not what I thought it was. And I mean, yeah, it had spice, but like, I didn't care for it. She has like a side friends with benefits type of thing with some other like basketball dude, and she keeps going back to him, like being weird when she's like messing around with him. I don't know. It was weird. It wasn't my cup of tea. I listened to it on audio and I was like skipping past parts. Yeah, I've just read better hockey romances. Let's move on. A book you read the fastest. I actually am currently reading this series right now, and it's the Queens and Monsters series by J.T. Geisinger. It is a mafia romance. Each book is about a different person. However, it's all in the same world, and I recommend reading it in order because something happens in each of the books. Like the first book that kind of sets up the second book, that character does something in the first book to kind of trickle into like what the plot is going to be about in the second book. So if you go out of order, I feel like you're going to be confused of like what happened in the past. It's just better to read it in order. It's not like each person like in the same like mafia group, I guess. It's like rivals. It's got everything. It's got enemies to lovers. It's got the abduction trope, like the kidnapping trope. It's got a lot. It's a fun time. Like I said, it's each a mafia book, so it is dark romance, mafia. I love the characters. I have not one bad thing to say about this series at all. Give it a try. Honestly, really go into it blind. I don't really read the back of books anymore, and I went into it completely blind, and I had so much fun. But if you need to check the trigger warnings, definitely check them. But oh my god, there's just something about a mafia man. Like, they're just so like, I'm in the mafia. But when this girl comes around the corner, they're like, who's that? Who's that girl over there? And they're complete simps. But everybody's scared of them. The whole mafia, like everybody who knows who this man is terrified of him, terrified of these men right here. But then they see that girl and they're like that. They start breakdancing. I'm just kidding. Next one is a book that deserves more hype. I'm so glad you asked. It is Faking with Benefits by Lily Gold. If you are a reverse harem, wide shoes girly, what are you doing? Why haven't you read this? Lily Gold is the queen of wide shoes romance. Like, this is supposed to, hold on. I'm heated. This is a new girl type of inspired book. So Layla Thompson is their next door neighbor. She owns like her own like lingerie like online business, and her upstairs neighbors are these three men right here. Well, and they own their own like podcast where they talk about I don't know, they just talk about a ton of stuff, like, and each one, hold on. So there's Zach, he's the ex-rugby player. Josh is the sweet boy next door. And Luke is the silver-haired divorcee who happens to be her old professor. Something happens to where she has to like move out of her apartment for a while. So she ends up moving in with them. So it's definitely giving New Girl vibes. I see it. And Layla does not have a lot of experience in like the dating department, and they were like, we literally have a podcast that talks about dating, sex, like the whole thing. Like, they decide to do like a little like thing on their podcast where they date her, they like fake date her and take her out on dates, so she kind of like gets prepared and like gets a little bit more experience in the dating world. Y'all, this, oh my god, I'm blushing. It's hot in here. I need to turn the fan on. Like, this would be a reread 1000%. I read all of this in a night. I decided let's start a book on Kindle Unlimited at 9 o'clock at night. Looked up, it was like 3 in the morning. I couldn't stop. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't eat. I couldn't do nothing. I had to read this book. It's so good. It is worth the freaking hype. Lily Gold has a ton of other white shoes romances. They're amazing, but this one is my favorite. So freaking good. A book that is becoming a movie/TV show. I'm sure we all know this, but it is one of my all-time other favorite books, and that is It Ends With Us. I am a Colleen Hoover stan. If you have nothing nice to say about her, I really don't care, because I know I love her, and that's what's important, is what I think. Well, to me. It's important to me, that what I think, obviously. I'm gonna give you like kind of like the most generic way of explaining what this book is about, because you're not supposed to really know what this book is about, but pretty much Lily grew up with a lot of like family issues and drama. I'm not gonna tell you what they are because again, you're not supposed to know. And she meets a boy, Atlas, when she's young and in high school that, you know, he's going through his own kind of thing. If you know, you know. And she's really there for him, and they kind of like make this really good like friendship pact. Like she goes to him for support with her family, vice versa. Like it's just a really wholesome, beautiful like story between these two that are in high school. Well, something happens where they go separate ways, and a few years pass and Lily moves to Boston. She opens up her own flower shop, and she meets a man on like the top of a terrace named Ryle, and he is a neurosurgeon. So she kind of starts like a relationship with him in some way, but she can't help but keep thinking about Atlas and seeing what he's doing and how he's doing. Yeah, so a lot happens in this. This is not a romance. This is not based on romance. This is a story, a beautiful story that Colleen Hoover wrote with the inspiration of her mom and her family. So it's very dark. It's not dark, but it's a lot of trauma. It's dark subjects. Like definitely check your trigger warnings. It's just so much more, and I feel like people go into this expecting a romance, but it's not. So don't go into that thinking that. This is purely fiction. Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think this is what gets people into reading, and I feel like people forget that. So, and then they hate on her when she doesn't deserve it. She's amazing. She's got amazing books. She's an amazing writer. Of course, there's other books out there that people love, but yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. I love this book. It's one of my top. This and Pack Up the Moon are my 2 all-time favorite books I've ever read. Amazing. A book from a genre you don't typically read. I only read romance books, but given what I have on my shelf, I don't really read a lot of fiction, women's fiction. This one is Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This pleasantly surprised me. It was an amazing story. Pretty much it's Hannah Martin. She is a hot mess. Her whole life is a hot mess. And she moves back home to LA. And on her first night home in LA, she moves in with her friend and her husband, and they end up going out to a bar to like rekindle all of her friendships from high school and like see everybody that she hasn't seen in a long time. And then she sees like her old like boyfriend that they had to like break up because they like went to different colleges and like just split apart. They left like on good terms, but they just like rekindle at this night. And they're having a great time, whatever, and Hannah's friend is like, okay, it's getting kind of late, like, we're gonna head home. Do you want to stay here? Do you want to come with us? And the guy that she's with is like, well, you can stay here. We're having so much fun. Like, don't leave. Like, let's kind of like rehash some old memories, and I'll take you home. This is such a unique story. So the chapters go from one point of view where Hannah goes home with her friend and her husband, and then the other point of view is if she went home with her last lover. They live completely different lives. I'm sitting here thinking that at one point they're all gonna lead to the same place. Absolutely not. Each point of view has a completely different ending. Some chapters, like in some point of views, like if she would have went home with this old lover of hers, she'll find out things in that point of view versus she doesn't even know yet if she would have went home with her best friend. So it's insane. Like, I don't want to spoil it because obviously I'm not going to spoil it, but the way that it ended, it's very different. It's very unique, but I preferred one life over the other. I was happier because certain things happen in one life that she doesn't really realize in the next life. And I just liked one way that it ended better. And I've never read a book like this. That's one thing I can say. And that's very unique because romance can get very repetitive. Taylor Jenkins Reid really did this. And the fact that no one talks about this book is insane to me because she's a masterpiece. Can you think of any book on the top of your head that had a storyline like this? That's what I thought. Okay, next one is a book that deserves all the hype it gets. Believe it or not, this actually, on my side of TikTok, this gets so much hype, and if it's not a lot of hype for you, then I'm not very sorry about it, but it is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. People don't really like the characters in this. I love the characters. When I went into Things We Hide from the Light, I really liked that one, but this one was still my favorite. I got so giddy seeing the characters again. Like, I loved it. I loved the story. I loved everything about this. It was so good. It's a small town, Grumpy Sunshine romance. Naomi has to come to this small town. She runs away from her wedding that you don't really know why, but she goes to this small town where her twin sister lives, only to find out that her twin sister up and like ditched the town and left her child behind. And you are introduced to the grumpy town guy, Knox, who thinks Naomi is her sister, and everybody hates Naomi's sister, but she's like, I'm literally her twin sister, like, I'm not who you think I am. So her sister up and leaves her daughter behind. So Naomi has to stick around town for a little bit longer and watch over her sister's daughter, and then she like makes a relationship with Knox slowly but surely, but it's a Grumpy Sunshine. It's so good. It gives you all the feels. It's incredible. Okay, so next question is a book you wish you could live in. I love this question. I'm so happy you asked me. It's the Zodiac Academy series. It's 8 books, it's right here. I'm just holding up book 1. This world is one of the craziest, coolest worlds I've ever read. Like, I am not a fantasy girl. I just don't really find myself reaching for it every time I'm in the like mood to read something. And when I picked this up, I had really low expectations going in. And given that, again, I don't really read a lot of fantasy, it was so easy to follow. The way that it sets it up, the world building, like I didn't find it boring. This is the setup book, so a lot of people, this one isn't their favorite, but for me, I loved it. I loved this one. If this was garbage to you guys, then I was curious to see what the rest of the series was about, because this was really good. And I wish I lived here. I wish that I lived with the crazy boys that are in this and the world, and I wish I had powers and dragons. And are you joking me? The romance, just everything. Like, there's just so much that happens in this series that is just chef's kiss. I love it. I wish I lived here. So the next question is a book you thought you would hate but ended up loving. And that's gonna be Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I am not really into YA. I just read a lot more new adult romances, so this YA isn't typically one that I like kind of reach for, but I was pleasantly surprised and kind of like, Emily, really? Because it's Lynn Painter. I love Lynn Painter. Her books are so good. Her writing is so good. So obviously, if spice is something that's important to you in every book, you're probably not gonna like this one because it is fade to black. Not even, actually. Nothing happens for it to fade to black. Yeah, so it's a high school romance. So you have your main character who is in love with rom-com movies, and she's never really dated anybody because she has such high expectations, kind of comparing it to rom-coms. And the next door neighbor, Wes, I believe. Yeah, so next door neighbor, Wes, he's like the arrogant kind of, she can't stand him guy, and a boy that she used to have a crush on when she was a child moves back to town, and she's trying to get his attention, but he's not really giving her the time of day. So Wes steps in, he's like, how about we fake date so he can, and I'll talk you up to him and tell him that you're so amazing, and hopefully he will stop looking at you as the child you once were and see you as this young adult. Yeah, and obviously they fall in love. It's so cute. This story is really good. I loved it. I love the characters. I was swooning. I wish I lived a life like this in high school. It was good. It took me by surprise, but of course, Lynn Painter never misses, so I highly recommend this one. Next one is a book that made you cry, and that is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. everything she writes makes me cry. This story in particular is really unique. The story follows Emma and Jesse. They are high school sweethearts. Emma is a traveling journalist and Jesse is like a traveling like photographer. So they travel the world together a lot. And on their anniversary, Jesse gets an opportunity to travel to some place without Emma, and Emma doesn't go. So they have this big fight because of course it's their wedding anniversary, and he goes and he never comes back. So yeah, so he never comes back. He's lost. They can't find him. Years go by and Emma moves back home to her hometown, where she runs into Sam, who was her like high school best friend. And you can tell, you kind of get the glimpse of her high school life, and you can tell Sam kind of had a little thing for her. They worked in their family library together. Yeah, so when she moves back, she sees him again. He like works like in a music shop, and she takes over the family business in the library. So they fall in love and they get engaged. And at their engagement dinner, Emma gets a phone call, and it's Jesse, her husband, and he is back. He was found, he's coming home, but she is now engaged to Sam. Can you, the anxiety this gave me, yeah, could you imagine, literally? So yeah, so you don't know who she's gonna choose. It is a little bit of a love triangle. She sees Jesse again. She's got to break the news to him that she is engaged, but she's also married. So she tries to see if there's anything there, or if she wants to be with Sam or Jesse. Like, yeah, the ending killed me. The ending made me sob. It is a happy ending. You're happy for all the characters. Like, you don't end up sad for one and like whatever for the other. The quotes in here just hit different. Taylor Jenkins Reid really, really popped off with this one. This made me sob, and I recommend it all the time to everybody. It's so good. It's the last book, a book you wish you could read for the first time. What does this say about me? Haunting Adeline. It is a dark romance, a super, super dark romance that is a stalker romance. A lot happens in this duet, and I had a blast. Definitely check the trigger warnings. It's insane. Pretty much Adeline is a best-selling author. She takes over this like family house that she used to live in with her grandma. Her grandma passes away and she takes over it. She lives alone. And at her book signing, she feels like she's being watched by this man, and it's Zaid Meadows who becomes obsessed with her. Yeah, he like sneaks into her house, leaves her roses, like cuts the thorns off. He's just psychotic, like he's crazy. Y'all, this book is so good, but it is dark. Like, if you are not into crazy dark, this is probably the darkest romance I've ever read. The first book, so good. Second book is so good, but the second book is tough to get through. Not that it's bad, it's just like the storyline is hard. Like, this leaves off of cliffhanger, then you get into the second book, and it is like, my stomach hurt so bad. It was like so dark that I needed to take a break. So yeah, but I really loved the story, obviously. I just love dark romance, and this, I knew it was gonna be good. I went into it with high expectations, and it succeeded every single one, and I wish I can go back and reread it again. Like, I won't ever forget this one, I'll tell you that. So that was my book recommendations video. I hope you guys loved it. I really had such a fun time doing this tag. If you guys still have any other questions of other books and tropes that you enjoy, let me know. I'll probably make a video doing that. But yeah, I hope you guys like got to know me a little bit more based on all of my reads. Let me know what your guys' favorite book is and what you love to recommend the most. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video super soon. I hope you all have the best day. Love you guys.